Okay, so it's been a while since I've added to my Lana series, and so many of you wanted me to revisit Blue Banisters, so here we are. Blue Banisters is Lana's 8th studio album. It was released on October 22nd, 2021, and it was the second record that Lana dropped that same year. You know the drill, we're gonna talk about the development of the record, its release, and the music itself before I assign it a new score. With the widespread critical and commercial success of Norman fucking Rockwell, Lana Del Rey was hard at work at her follow-up, Chemtrails Over the Country Club. As early as November 2020, she revealed that she was working on 2 albums. Lana occupies a very unique space where she operates more akin to an alternative indie artist, but with the audience of an established pop star. Part of my fascination with her is how much Polydor and Interscope just leave her be. This allows her to release music at her own discretion. This, combined with her ownerships of her masters from the very start, has granted her freedoms with her image and sound that very few artists ever get. As we covered in the Chemtrails video, that era was more or less overshadowed by misconstrued statements that she made on social media. By the time Chemtrails had come out, she was officially done with that era. Just one day after Chemtrails, Lana teased Rock Candy Sweet, slated for June 1st of that year. In a response to a Harper's Bazaar article criticizing her, she essentially called out the article for alleging that her career was built off cultural appropriation and glamorizing abuse, and said that her new record would challenge those ideas. One comment that she made was that it was a revenge record of sorts. I believe that this is a key facet to understanding this album itself and how it came to be. Even leading up to the release of Ocean Blvd, Lana would cite that this album was a defense mechanism, an explanatory album that she deliberately did not promote but wanted to be available for anyone curious for information about her stances. In April, Lana would eventually retitle the album to Blue Banisters, even sharing a music video clip and some cryptic messages like "I'm writing my own story and no one can tell it but me," and "Sometimes life makes you change just in time for the next chapter." The end of May saw the release of 3 separate singles: Wildflower Wildfire, Textbook, and the title track. Each of these singles teased a less cohesive, more introspective Lana record was coming. Speculation about the album's sound and who'd be producing on it really stirred up. It became apparent through an interview with Fantano that Mike Dean had worked with Lana sometime before the album's release. Fans wondered if previous collaborators like Jack Antonoff and Rick Knowles would come back. July saw Lana reveal the official album art, which fans saw as a homage to Tracy Nelson. She also teased Arcadia, the 4th and final single. Lana would also confirm that old leaked songs Cherry Blossom and Thunder had made the cut by liking an Instagram post. An insider would eventually leak key details about the album in August. They alleged that the album had been rehauled many times, a fan favorite demo, Fine China, was dropped at the last minute, and that the album was coming soon. In September, Lana would drop Arcadia and release the final track list. Fans noted that a sizable chunk of the album contained outtakes from previous albums, notably ultraviolence tracks and unrealized projects like an unreleased album with The Last Shadow Puppets. As a longtime fan, I had been really hyped for Dealer, a track that at that point had been teased for Chemtrails before making its way to Banisters. In September, Lana would also deactivate her main social media accounts, leading to a rather muted release strategy relying on word of mouth and fan interest. On October 22nd, the album had officially dropped. No matter what people say about Blue Banisters, it was a critical success. It is currently tied for her 3rd highest Metacritic score with its successor Ocean Blvd at the time of this recording. It's only 1 point under Chemtrails. The positive reviews really praise Lana for stripping back the layers and presenting a rich portrait of her inner world. AV Club, who had actually been pretty critical of Chemtrails, awarded it a stronger score for straying from that record's sound and for its breathtaking beauty. Pitchfork also awarded it a higher score, denoting its ability to thrill and how it underscored that we had much more to learn about Lana. The more mixed reviews criticized its lack of focus and perplexing nature. Despite these comments, both of these reviews affirmed that Lana had more or less secured a legacy as a skilled songwriter and as one of the most enigmatic figures in the world of music. Commercially, the record was a marked decrease from Chemtrails debuting at 8 with only 33,000 units sold. Still a top 10 debut, but the first album since Paradise to not crack the top 3 of the Billboard 200. Many noted that it was a consequence of Lana's lack of promo, but still saw her break the record for the artist with the most number 1s on Billboard's alternative album charts. Even in a flop era, Lana was breaking new ground. Overseas, the album fared a little bit better. It debuted at number 2 in the UK and topped the charts in territories like Argentina and the Netherlands. Blue Banisters ranks highly for me personally. While I did find Chemtrails an ultimately easier and breezier listen, Banisters grew on me once I realized that it was a retelling of Lana's overarching story. It's a collection of reworked demos and newer compositions that lack sonic cohesion but more or less paint Lana as a person and not an idea. When we consider the previous eras, Lana more or less had a commitment to a defining image or archetype, something that she had begun to shy away from as early as Lust for Life but never quite committed to. Even Chemtrails portrayed Lana as a songstress in retreat away from the cynicism and dour existentialism of NFR's sunny nihilism. Banisters, even down to its imagery, merely presents Lana as she is, the cover image of her with her dog seemingly a simple, intimate portrait of a woman living her day-to-day life. There is no melodrama, glamour, or tragedy on the surface. People often clown the first singles for having Pixar's portraits, but I did find them charming eventually over time. They're DIY placeholders that really spoke to how we should just listen to the songs. From a production level, the album sidesteps Antonoff entirely, mainly relying on a wide group of producers. The majority of the tracks, especially the newer ones, were produced by Lana and Drew Erickson. A few of the tracks were co-written and produced by Lana's ex, Barry James O'Neill, and were speculated to be ultra-violence era reworks. It's not easy to pinpoint what exactly this album is about, aside from giving us a better glimpse into Lana's interiority. Rather than it being a heartbreak record, it seems more like a re-examination of Lana's various roles: a potential wife, a scorned lover, a cursed poet, a loyal daughter, and most importantly a loved sister, possibly a future mother. All memes aside, that is actually a theme. Unlike previous records, this album definitely shared some insights into Lana's family, something that we'd later see really expanded upon in Ocean Blvd and her helping her nepo daddy, Rob Grant, release his own music. The album's opener textbook seems like a confessional but slightly satirical exploration for what she's looking for in a partner. The overt asking for a father figure feels a little too on the nose for it to not be an inside joke. The pre-chorus really establishes the motif of blue, a color that she's previously used to denote romantic openness. The chorus itself sees Lana connect her subject to her father via a shared car, but acknowledges that she doesn't want to repeat her parents' mistakes and how she's not really that girl, either a reference to her lover's ex or her own mother. Her contentious relationship with her mother floats in and out of this record. Invoking Black Lives Matter seems to be a direct reference to how she met her then boyfriend Clayton Johnson at a rally, as well as a timestamp of a snapshot. She regales us on her wishes that her father could see her pure love, and in the second verse there's a drawn contrast to her previous love affair, asking if going blonde would have saved her doomed relationship, likely a callback to the muse of the Chemtrails record before circling back to her new hopes with her love. The title track is a more straightforward track. It tells a very linear story about leaning on her family to process the loss of a love. The first verses reference Oklahoma, a direct allusion to the Tulsa Jesus Freak from Chemtrails. First pre-chorus sees her friends sort of warn her that men don't want women with their own legacy. She falls for a man who says that he'd paint her banisters blue and give her children and free her from the pain. Unfortunately, it's not meant to be. Her sisters come back to help her paint these banisters green, and while some of the banisters are gray, she does come to realize every May that she doesn't need a lover, she has a community to rely on. It's a very subtle story that gives classic Americana vibe. Arcadia is a beautiful ode to finding solace in the city. It's a love letter to LA and the San Gabriel Valley and the muse that really most aligns to the city. Oftentimes we associate a person to a place. In this case, the metaphor of her body being a map of LA, with her curbs being the valley and the roads being the arteries, encapsulates a love for this person, place, and idea. The final lines of the song hint that she really does see Arcadia as the America that could be. She recalls the height of the Statue of Liberty, name checks how they, the media, the press, tried to build her up just to tear her down, but the city calls her name. I found it beautiful when she prays for the country at the end. It's a continuation of reconciling her reliance on Americana imagery against times where the country itself is in a bad place. Then we get a thrilling trio interlude that serves as a way to set aside these first tracks as their own story. It evokes the sort of energy that she had in Born to Die. It's a classic mix of spaghetti western and trap. Black Bathing Suit feels like a mirror to early Lana, particularly the Born to Die era. In this song, we find her spill about her desire for a boyfriend if this really is the end. Her casual "I'm tired of this shit" reigns in the song with her wit. The lines about how the only thing fitting her being this black bathing suit seem to be a direct response to those who have criticized her body image during the pandemic. It seems to recall the lines about white bikinis and off to the races. The chorus really does feel like a callback to video games. "I heard you like the bad girls, honey, is that true" line, this time telling her man that she'll show him how bad girls do. The lines at the end directly confront her detractors, saying that they really just make her richer. If You Lie Down With Me is one of 3 Ultraviolence reworks. Choosing to put a song written by a long past ex always struck me as intentional, as this album does anchor around itself around introspection. This definitely reminded me a little bit of American from the underrated Paradise EP. While it lacks the density of modern Lana, there's a clever way to how she sings lie, having double meanings, being the action of lying down, but also not telling the truth. The jazzy outro makes this a standout for me in spite of the omission of a bridge, something that is missing throughout this record. I always felt like Beautiful gets a lot of flack for not being quite as complex or as rich as other Lana songs lyrically, but this is one of the most straightforward songs on this record. The simple piano production is the star here. The song is a simple ode to the challenges of perception, drawing on her usual motifs of blue and being misunderstood. It seems like an anti-apology song, invoking that she herself can turn what's blue into something beautiful like the subject, but fundamentally she herself is still different, and that's very okay. Violets for Roses is the direct rebuttal that Lana does make. Its opening verses directly reference the flack that she received for wearing a mesh mask to an event for her poetry book, while also reveling at the end of the pandemic. The pre-chorus recenters the song around leaving a toxic relationship, while she reiterates falling in love with LA. I always found that the chorus was interesting because it establishes that she left her lover behind because he expected her to be a rose, a beautiful yet trite commercial flower meant for decoration. Lana views herself more as a violet, a wildflower, her passion running blue to everyone's reds. The second verse ties back to textbook, alluding to social change, comparing how the mayor cutting off protests is eerily similar to her ex silencing her, before she reiterates her points about escaping convention for freedom. Dealer is a clear winner for me. It's an all-time Lana track. It's beautifully produced with the last shadow puppets. Miles Kane's earnest delivery of the verses is contrasted by Lana's bombastic, playful vocals. The speaker relays their breaking point regarding someone who's emotionally unavailable and absent in their life, whether it's their dealer, their father, or their doctor. Lana's presence in the chorus and her refusal to continue to reciprocate is cathartic anger. The outro in particular, with Lana's cooler vocals saying that all circuits are busy, is a sign that she's properly moved on and cannot be reached out to anymore. Thunder is another Last Shadow Puppets collaboration that, like Dealer, deals with a bad lover, but this time it's someone who's destructive and apparently an alcoholic. Oftentimes we see lightning invoked as a metaphor, but rarely thunder, the sounds of what's to come. It's clever that Lana uses this combined with the lines, "If hello means goodbye, then honey better walk away." The narrator of the song feels like they're predicting things. Just do it, don't wait feel more like warning shots instead of an invitation. The instrumental feels sunnier than the subject matter, with a choir that really does make this song pop. Wildflower Wildfire is an underrated song that I think really reveals a lot about how Lana views herself. Again, the motif of seeing herself as a wildflower speaks to how she feels about her own authenticity, as wildflowers tend to grow without tending to. But it also speaks to how abandoned she feels, because these wildflowers grow without a guided hand. She views her love as this healing thing, but she never wants it to consume people the way that wildfires do. The second verse and the pre-chorus underscore the pain that she's faced when she was young at home, how she'd end up in hospitals, and how she's healed from then. The lines "so I turned, but I learned" seem to be a direct reference to Sylvia Plath, who she really adores. I feel like it really is a strong song about self-love and self-trust. Nectar of the Gods is an outtake that's rumored to have been for both Ultraviolence and later Lust for Life, which both do suit the track. In the context of Blue Banisters, this track feels like an extension of the classic UV opener Cruel World, from its first verse to even its chorus lines. I found that the second verse is really metatextual. Rather than being about a toxic obsession, it seems aimed at herself and how becoming what she dreamed of becoming only ended up being empty at the end of the day. The last couplet reinforces her love for California, but her realization that she's lost her plot feels more addressed to her past self than what she'd say about herself now. Living Legend is just a really sweet ode to Jane Powers, who has been a longtime friend and mentor of hers. I don't have much to say about it beyond the outro being amongst some of the most gorgeous productions that she's ever been on. Cherry Blossom's probably one of my favorite off the records, knowing what we know now about her relationship with her mother. As per the lyrics, it's a very devastating ode to a potential future daughter that she's imagining for herself. She vows to be a haven for her, someone to share everything with, and how she'll always be there for her. The imagery of a little ghost reminds us that this is an imaginary exercise, which grounds this in a yearning yet melancholic atmosphere. You can't help but feel that this is also addressed to her younger self in some way. The final track, Sweet Carolina, is an ode to her sister Chuck, and it's a very perfect closer reiterating her love for her family and how it's her real legacy, an idea that is immediately picked up on in the Grants in Ocean Blvd. This song was even co-written by her sister and her father. The song outlines a sketch of a moment after Chuck's given birth to her daughter. Lana doesn't really yield on her wit. There's a very clever line about her sister naming her baby after her lilac iPhone 11, where she really does also make fun of a crypto bro before laying out a beautiful bridge about being her sister's community, the family that she needs, tying together Lana's journey to giving love altogether. Blue Banisters may feel like a random collection of old demos and musings, but there's definitely layers and themes that tie together to build a non-linear journey, taking and borrowing old stories and new moments to paint Lana more as a human being. The artifice and machine songstress that we love ceases to exist, and we're left behind with one of the greatest songwriters of the century, a realized and complex, flawed narrator. I think revisiting this album actually made me appreciate her body of work a lot better, and Ocean Blvd is an even better album after listening to this. I have to give this album an 8.7. It's up from my 8.5 score. It's definitely one of her more daunting albums, but I highly recommend it for anyone who's a Lana fan. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching my channel. I'm so happy to finally have made this video. I needed some time and space to really analyze this record and really feel it. If you noticed a quality change in my voice, it's because I swapped mics, because I am currently visiting home. So I may not be able to make videos as quickly as I did before, but I definitely will be back for the release cycle. I'm working on an Ariana Grande discography revisit. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait for you guys to watch that. Shout out to my members, my subscribers. Feel free to like and comment. Let me know what your favorite track off this record was, and if you're gonna give it another shot. I did, and I will see you next video.